No.
Boy, that looks like twins.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell it's far away, but those aren't.
Well, people think because it's Halloween, it matches a dress that Sarah loves. And so when we were at the wedding in Indiana, we were like,
Barbie and Ken.
You're connected.
When you start people comedy.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was a joke, and I'll tell you why. I look at this, and we can hear.
That's somebody who's trolling.
There's quite a resemblance with her when she was young.
you have a lot of hair?
Well, it's the same style.
1987.
I look like your sister or something. Yeah, we looked at that and we thought it was some kind of joke. Well, because it looked like me.
Who'd you think was pulling the joke out?
I don't know.
We did a little photoshopping.
Yeah.
That's
Probably
mine.
the same glasses. We all wore those big glasses on. They were awful.
Sister.
I told Joanne when I first met you, you became a member of the church. You introduced me. And I thought, my God, they look like sister.
That kind of freaks us out, Marty.
Stop it. You never thought.
Let's go with first cousin. Yeah, that's not a thing, man.
But I knew something was
Halloween party? Why not? Are you going out? I know.
But they so when they got it.
Well, I thought you were I'm here special. I just
Because she heard about it?
I will be getting new ones.
Those people were. We're not for a long time.
Excuse me. Excuse me, thank you all for coming. Can you? Oh, that was good. Is it on? Yeah, it is. If all of you could please grab a drink and take a seat. We have a program that we're going to start, and the sooner we start, the sooner you get cake. So please, we're going to give it about 5 minutes and then we're going to start at most. So.
Any movies that make you cry?
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Hello. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone and thank you very much for coming. Are they on? Are they both working?
Turn them up.
Thank you for joining us for this celebration. For Roger's 35th anniversary. Jen is saying she can't hear.
I think you need to move that closer to you.
Thank you. There we go. 35th anniversary of his ordination into the ministry. My name is Janet Danick, and I am here on behalf and as a member of the Pastoral Relations Committee. Before we begin, I just want to do a thank you to the wonderful team of people who've brought this together. Working with Karen Beckwith, Karen Harner, and Reverend Carl Gillette especially has been a labor of love. And then Ellie and Larry Schroeder coming in to help us do our readings today. And of course, we couldn't do it without Rob Reeves and Rick Harner with our technology. So thank you very much. And I can't ever forget, none of us should forget, Janet Davis is always there to support us every step of the way, especially during Roger's days off. Those were the days that we usually got her. So, as we consider, thank you. So as we considered how to celebrate this milestone, the question arose, what is an ordination? What does it mean to be ordained? And what did Roger need to do to accomplish this? With the help of our own Reverend Gillette, we learned about the journey of UCC clergy candidate on his or her path to ordination. We gained a better understanding and appreciation of Roger's accomplishment and want to share that with you. We're fortunate to have Reverend Dr. Carl Gillette, who celebrated his 60th anniversary this year into the ordination. He's going to share the deals. He's going to share the details of the ordination process against a backdrop of images of Roger's personal experience. So, welcome, Carl.
The fact that this is such a diverse fellowship with such a diverse history, it seemed to us a good idea to help all the congregation understand the ordination process. Ordination in the United Church of Christ is provided through a three-way covenant. The three parties to the covenant are the association, the local church, and the clergy candidate. All local UCC churches belong to an association of churches, which are in the same geographical area. In the early days of the congregational component of the UCC, associations were geographically small, so people could attend association meetings and get back home the same day. Modern transportation and highways have created geographically larger associations. The members of the association include the churches in that geographical area and ordained clergy who hold standing in the association. The association bears responsibility for the authorization of ministerial standing and for the discipline of those persons who hold such standing. When an individual requests ordination, the association will hold an ecclesiastical council, at which time they will review the candidate's preparation, checking on college degrees and seminary graduation and internship experiences, and then hear the candidate for ordination present a paper describing his or her spiritual journey that has led to ordination. In addition to presenting the candidate's journey, custom decrees that the paper should serve as an educational experience for the entire association. Following the presentation by the candidate, there's a time for the association to question the candidate. There was a time when there were certain traditional questions asked of the candidate, which included the question, "Are you willing to be damned for the glory of God?" Of course, the candidate was supposed to say yes. But eventually, there was a time when one candidate said, "No, but I'm willing that this council be damned for the glory of God." History tells us that's the last time the question was ever asked. The focus of the examination is to determine whether or not the candidate has the spiritual faith and personal maturity to serve. It's never about whether the candidate has correct beliefs. After the participants in the council have finished their questions, the council excuses the candidate and votes whether or not to ordain that person. The council during that question may engage in further discussion. When the voting is concluded, the candidate is invited back into the council and informed about the decision. If the council votes to support the ordination, and if the candidate has a call to a local church, then a time and date will be set for the ordination. If the candidate has not yet received a call to a local church, the council will determine that the individual can be ordained when such a call is received. The ordination itself is actually a continuation of the council. In addition to many of the traditional rituals of the service, of the worship, the service will include ordination vows. These vows include commitments made by the candidate to be a pastor and teacher in the UCC tradition, to keep confidence, to minister impartially to all, and to maintain the truth of the gospel and the peace of the church by speaking the truth in love. Following the administration of the vows, the leader and the congregation will join in acclaiming their willingness to ordain the candidate and support the candidate in his or her ministry. After that's done, the candidate will kneel for the laying on of hands, which is a symbol that the church has used throughout history to recognize candidates' call to ministry, and ask the Holy Spirit to bestow the gifts of ministry upon the candidate. All the ordained clergy present are invited to join in the laying on of hands, and often certain lay people are joined to participate. There's a prayer of ordination during the laying on of hands, and then there is a declaration that the candidate has been ordained and has now ministerial standing in the United Church of Christ. Usually the person making the declaration will offer the hand of Christian love and fellowship to the candidate. Ordinarily, the candidate will wear a black academic robe, which in our tradition symbolizes the teaching aspect of ministry, and will receive a stole following the vows, which indicates that being ordained the candidate is yoked to Christ in ministry. The stole has been used for this purpose for over 1,400 years. Traditionally, the stole is red, which is the color symbolizing the Holy Spirit and Pentecost. Candidates are also often given a new Bible from which to preach and teach. Quite frequently, this part of the ceremony will be followed by a service of communion, and the newly ordained clergy person will officiate administering communion for the first time. And the service is typically followed by a celebration.
Thank you, Carl. As Carl said, one of the requirements for ordination is to have a call from a church. Roger was called to Sherborn United Church of Christ in Sherborn, New York, where he served for 17 years before coming here to the United Church of Christ, Midland. Even though he has been here a long time, our committee thought maybe some of the older members from Sherborn congregation may have some memories of Roger's ministry that they could share with us for this celebration. So we contacted the church and worked with Karen Glasberg and Richie, who remembers Roger fondly and said she would be glad to spread the word and try and collect memories for us. We were all hopeful, but we were also realistic since it's been 18 years since he left the church. In this next segment of the program, we're going to share brief excerpts from some of the many, many heartfelt memories that we received from the Sherborn United Church of Christ. There are far too many to share them all today, but we hope we've captured the essence of their messages. And I would like to personally thank the Sherborn congregation, and especially Karen Glasberg and Richie, for doing the work and providing these materials. They truly honor Roger and provide insight into what he meant to their congregation. Karen Harner has assembled a booklet of all of the memories and all of the photographs in their entirety so that he doesn't miss a word.
Our first memory is from Jennifer Ashton. I'm not sure where to begin to share my memories of you. From sitting in the front pew as a young child during children's moments to standing before you as I married my best friend. I remember the fun times playing sardines and many giggles as a youth. But I also remember the serious talks and the safety of your listening ears. Thanks to you and your nurturing my faith, there have been many more Sherborn UCC youth group trips, sleepovers, state and national youth events, and a million memories. You were safe, caring, and there to provide support. I am forever grateful for the memories and the impact that you had on my life.
This memory comes from Steve Asma. As I reflect on my childhood years and the impact Reverend Roger had on me, I only wish my children had the same opportunity to be in a group like the one I was involved in. Roger taught us life lessons and was a role model to all of us. Thanks for making a difference in my life.
This memory is from Steve and Lori Paul. Reverend Roger Pancost was a huge part of our lives when we were raising our family. His energy, enthusiasm, guidance, and laugh shaped our lives. He was ahead of his time when we studied other faith traditions, and he brought in guest speakers.
This memory comes from a gentleman named Greg Fuller. Almost from his arrival, Reverend Roger became a member of what would become affectionately known as our church family. His exceptional talent of listening and empathy eased the pain of death and tragedy for so many in our church over his years with us. Roger had a group of young couples with children, a women's sewing group, a group that liked to attend shows in the theater, a group that liked to get together to play board games and chat, a group of older women who liked to dine out, and a group of older men who liked to do repairs around the church. The church grew and was diverse as each of these groups attracted more congregation members. Through Reverend Rogers' extraordinary talents, he was able to juggle all of these different factions with their varied interests and mold us into a cheerful, vibrant church. He came to us as a young minister, fresh from seminary, filled with enthusiasm, and ready to share God's love with the world. I would never understand where a person so young acquired his level of maturity. He is truly a person who has found his calling in life, and we feel so fortunate to have known him and been uplifted by his ministry.
This memory is from Todd Leanbach. I think some of my favorite memories were playing hide and seek and tag in the church. Roger was always right in the thick of it. I laugh about the rafting trip we took the kids on. I think the tour guide said that our group was the worst they'd ever had as far as the number of people falling out of their rafts and having to be saved. It's a record I'm very proud of.
This memory is from Russ and Shelley Soloway and family. Roger was an integral part of our lives, and we will always hold him dearly in our hearts. He taught us many life lessons, and we will always be grateful for the love, support, kindness, times together, and the growth we had in our journey of faith.
This memory is from Ethel Forward. 35 years of caring for and guiding others in their spiritual journey. Not a small task, and done with integrity, compassion, and a deep understanding of human behavior. My personal journey has been difficult, but very rewarding, and Roger will always be one of my most influential guides.
This comes from Sister Ginger Bennett Rowe. I have had so many fond memories of my years in youth group. Papa Raj was always there for us and made every event a great time.
This memory is from Nate and Rachel Walters Paul. We had the pleasure of meeting Reverend Roger in middle school when he led youth group. The youth group was really some of the most fun that either of us remembers from that time in our lives, and Roger was a pivotal part of that. He made it fun and exciting to be a part of, and he was always patient and kind to all of us. Roger was a great leader.
This memory is from Karen Crum Cosmola. Oh, I have so many memories of Reverend Roger. He brought our church to life. He brought a spirit of family and friendship and fellowship all in one. Youth group events, from game nights at the church to going to New York State youth event to trips to Camp Oswegatchie. I couldn't wait to go to church on Sundays and hear his sermons. My most favorite memory of all was having him officiate my wedding ceremony. It was so special to have him be there. I was so honored to have him there.
This memory is from Dolores Dixon. It has been a privilege to have had Roger Pancost as a spiritual leader and a friend. He contributed much to my spiritual journey. His calm demeanor and loving concern, loving prayers, helped both my husband and me through a very difficult time. Roger's friendship is a valuable treasure to me. I still think of him often and consider him a special friend.
This memory comes from Matt Caldwell. I'll never forget the time we went to see the AIDS quilt in Ithaca, and due to my shenanigans, we got pulled over by a state trooper. I'd made a sign that we were being kidnapped. Another driver called the police, and subsequently a trooper approached Reverend Rogers' vehicle with a firearm drawn out of an abundance of caution.
It was several state troopers and the sheriff's
This memory is from Karen Glassenberg Ritchie, who is the current moderator at Sherburne. What can be said about a person who has changed so many with his kindness, love, compassion, knowledge, and at least another 1,000 adjectives, too many to list here? You touched the lives of your first church with your youth and energy. You breathed renewal into a congregation. Our church family grew and added activities for every age, which bonded our congregation even closer. One of the groups was youth group. I was blessed to co-lead that group for 12 years with you and watch so many kids grow from noisy, uncontrolled sixth graders to young adults who graduated and are now in their mid-40s with families of their own and doing incredible things with their lives. You, my friend, had a huge impact on how these kids turned out later in life. Much love, admiration, and congratulations.
And although there are many more, this is the last one for this presentation. Not sure Roger can take any more than this is it. This is from Lori Geyer. I have to say that I would not be who I am today if Roger was never a part of my life.
In 2004, Midland UCC began a search for a minister. But this process isn't as simple as posting a job opening or a resume to Indeed.com. For a final memory today, we asked Alan Thiel, who was a member of the search committee charged with finding our next pastor, to reflect on the process. Unfortunately, Alan tested positive for COVID yesterday and is in quarantine. We're glad he's there. So I will be sharing his words. He's given me he said that I could do this. So I am going to share his memory about the search. You've heard about Roger's work in New York. Now I get to tell you how he got here. When a church in the UCC denomination needs a new pastor, a search committee is formed. People volunteer and church council appoints the committee. In this case, everyone who volunteered was selected. It was a largish search committee. It's a hard word. Its first task was to notify the association that we are officially starting a pastoral search. This causes a couple of things to happen. First, our name is put on a list of churches looking for a pastor. It's a nationwide search. So Roger saw it in New York. Our most distant application came from a minister in Hawaii. Second, the association sends the search committee a ton of forms to be completed. The church profile. Lots of questions about the congregation. How many members, how many in attendance on an average Sunday, age distribution, professions of members, And what about finances? How much is your annual income for the last 5 years? How do you spend your money? What about the community, the population, major employers? In addition to this detailed report, the committee prepares a one-page, both sides, description of the church highlighting all the most wonderful things about the congregation. This one page will be the introduction any minister indicating any interest in our church will receive first. We spent hours editing, wanting it to look good, but didn't want to tell any fairy tales. Then comes the waiting. Is anyone out there looking for a church like ours? In the end, we had a large number of applicants, about 60 to 70 in my recollection. Resumes come to us through the association, and then the reading begins, and then the culling begins, sometimes unanimous, sometimes after some serious discussion. We keep at it until we have a workable number of people to do telephone interviews with. Telephone interviews are weird. No facial expression, no body cues, just the person's voice coming through very low-tech piece of equipment. After the telephone interview, Roger was still on the keeper's list. Then, while we were still working on phone interviews, he called us. He said he was going to come to Lansing to visit his family, and he would be willing to come up to Midland to do a live interview. We said we'd discuss it and get back to him. This was breaking our plan. It would, however, save us a few bucks. When we invite someone for an interview, we had to pay for the hotel, we had to pay for car rental, we had to pay for meals. We wouldn't have to do this if he was coming up on his own dime. In the end, we decided to take him up on the offer. A date was set, and we all gathered at Willie Deason's house for dinner, and then we had an extensive interview with Roger. We had questions, he had questions, we talked, he talked. Then, as we were winding up, Herb offered to guide Roger out to M20 to keep him from getting lost in Midland, like so many people do. While they were out for a ride, the rest of us discussed the evening. At some point, someone, I can't really remember who it was, said, "You know, I think we're through." We found our next minister. More discussion and a consensus was reached. Here we are, our first live interview. Telephone interviews still planned on the schedule, and we have our minister. Herb got back, we filled him in on the discussion, and he was in agreement, so the whole committee was on board. What next? This was back before widespread cell phones. So we called Roger's mom and dad. We wanted to speak further with Roger, and would he please call Herb when he got home? He said the next morning or that evening, they spoke and came to a general agreement, knowing lots of contract details would have to be worked out. And here we are, 18 years later, celebrating Roger's 35th year in the ministry. One last memory about the process. Remember that one-page description of the church I mentioned? On it was a picture of the church in the spring, featuring a flowering crab tree, which many of you remember. After he had been here a while, Roger mentioned to me that when he read that page and saw that picture way back in the beginning of the process, remember that's the first thing he saw, he had an inkling that this was going to be the place.
It wasn't just an interview.
So Roger, can you come up here? Just for a minute. Can you stand on this?
There's even an X.
Right, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna make you stand here for just a minute. So did you get a chance to see the cake?
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
For those of you who haven't seen it, the cake is decorated to look just like the cake that Pastor Roger had at his ordination service 35 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
In red frosting written on the cake is a quote from the Old Testament, the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 8, and it says, "Do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God." Sorry. Also written on the cake is the name of the church that Pastor Roger grew up in, which sponsored his ordination, which was Pilgrim Congregational Church, UCC, which is in Lansing, Michigan. Also written on the cake is the name of the first church for which Roger was called to serve, Sherburne UCC in New York. And last but not least, written on the cake is our name, UCC Midland. The cake is frosted with white frosting, red roses, and red lettering. At UCC, red symbolizes Christ and the Holy Spirit, and white symbolizes purity and the light of joy. Roger, for 35 years, you have been and still are living the way Micah says the Lord requires, doing justice, loving kindness, and walking humbly with God. On behalf of UCC Midland, I present you with this plaque in honor of you and as a token of our appreciation. And it says, the Reverend Roger C. Pancost, celebrating 35 years of service as an ordained minister, United Church of Christ, presented in appreciation by the congregation of the United Church of Christ, Midland, Michigan, 2022. In addition, I'd like to present you this picture book entitled Sherburne UCC Contributions, Memories and Photos of Pastor Roger Pancost while serving Sherburne United Church of Christ, shared for the celebration of his 35th anniversary of ordination, October 30th, 2022, at the United Church of Christ, Midland. So, Roger, I would like to congratulate you on 35 years of service to the church and our community and the communities you've lived in, and thank you very much for your service and dedication. Now you have a chance if you'd like to have the podium. If you don't, we would like you to cut the cake, and it's up to you as to what you would like.
I'll be brief. Thank you for all of you for putting together this wonderful celebration of my ordination anniversary. It couldn't have been any more special than what you've done today. To bring back all the memories from the past 35 years is just beautiful. When I was looking for that first church, that church in Sherburne contacted me and they said, could you drive out for an interview? I was living in St. Louis, Missouri. That would have been a 22-hour drive. I said, no, but if you want to fly me out there, I will interview with you. And so what happened is after that very first weekend with the search committee, we knew instantly that that was the church that I was being called to serve. As was alluded to, when I did receive that first page from this church, the word inkling was used, but it was a God moment for me. When I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's the next church that I'm going to. And that was before I had met any of you. And then that wonderful evening, having supper around Willie's, there were like 13 or 14 of us sitting around our kitchen table, and knowing all of us that I had already become your pastor at that meal. So I've been so fortunate to have two wonderful churches. I couldn't be happier than the church I'm serving now, and for the love and the support that you give to all of me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Looking forward to continuing to serving you in the years ahead. So thank you. And that's why I said walk humbly, right? So,